It is time, everybody. It's time to give Jordan Poole the keys to the franchise and trade Kyle Kuzma. And then we're going to talk about tomorrow night's game in Atlanta against the Hawks. Come on, rock with your boy. Next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again. Your favorite podcast now has a newsletter, introducing the Locked On Wizards daily newsletter, a one-stop shop for the ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Wizards newsletter. Tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 and bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, everybody, it is time. We kind of covered it a little bit in last night's live recap of the Washington Wizards loss to the San Antonio Spurs, but this episode, I'll kind of give you guys an incinerated episode. First of all, we're going to talk about Jordan Poole formally being handed the keys to the franchise, Kyle Kuzma being on the trade block and where he fits best, and we're going to do a preview for tomorrow night's game against the Atlanta Hawks. So, again, first things first, it's time, y'all. It is officially time. It's time to give Jordan Poole the keys to the franchise and trade Kyle Kuzma. But starting with JP13, why should we give him the keys to the franchise? Has he earned it? Well, let's talk about it. So let's take a look at the stats, because last year is the kind of up and down year, and we're going to compare it to this season, which he is playing at a high level. He's playing at an all-star level. So last year he did have an up and down campaign. First year in the nation's cap, where he played 78 games and started 66 of those games, where he averaged around 30.1 minutes per game, which was a career high. Now, looking at his other stats, he shot 41% from field goal. He shot 32% from three, 87% from free throw, where he averaged 2.7 rebounds, 4.4 assists, 1.1 steals, and he averaged 17.4 points per game. So we know last year, we know it was a very up and down season. The first half of the season, he struggled mightily. Struggled with his shot, struggled to figure out what kind of player he was in DC, caught a lot of criticism. But then head coach Brian Keefe became head coach, or interim head coach last year, and made him the sixth man, and he flourished in that role. And then when Tyus Jones went down with a back injury, Jordan Poole came in, started at point guard, and led the second fastest transition team in the NBA. So this season, let's go ahead forward to this season, where again he is playing at a high level, playing, in my opinion, at an all-star level. So take a look at the stats from this season. Big turnaround. Again, the minutes are kind of around 30 minutes, but he is averaging 22.2 points per game, 2 rebounds. It ain't too shabby for a guard. 4.4 assists. So if you look at his assist numbers, they did slightly go, or they're still 4.4 from last year. So he maintained that stat line, but I do think it will go up to around 5, maybe 5.5 assists per game as the season unfolds. But here's the biggest stat with JP13, his steals numbers. He is averaging 2.3 steals per game. Now, one of the biggest knocks against Jordan Poole last season was his lack of defense, or his lackluster defense. And, it really goes to this point. He worked on his game in the offseason. He worked on his game, his overall game. We know he's an offensive-minded player, but defensively, he was hard to play at times last year. That's not the same scenario this season. He is playing high-level defense. I mean, again, if you look at last year's steal numbers, he was averaging 1.1. Now he is averaging 2.3, and you see a lot more effort, a lot more energy on the defensive end, where he's playing really good defense every night. Most nights he's playing really good defense, man. Now, obviously, Bilal Coulibaly is going to be that guy who's going to guard the best player on other teams. He should be that guy. But Jordan Poole has shown a lot more focus this season, a lot more energy on the defensive end, and offensively, he is a lot more efficient. Let's take a look at the shooting numbers this year real quick. Bear with me real quick if I slide this. I'm on the Athletic. Shout out to the Athletic. All right, so this year already he is shooting 44% from three. Come on now. That is a big change from 32% from last season. Now, other stats to look at, his field goal percentage is, I'm looking at it, where you at? It's 45.7%. So last year his field goal percentage was 41%. So he has fine-tuned his offensive skill. He is a much improved player. If you look at through the lens of efficiency, he's a lot more efficient player this season. And then, like I said, what were the biggest knocks last year? Well, defense, lack of efficiency. And he's not the only guy. We're going to talk about the next guy next. But he is a lot more efficient player. He is a lot more polished and better defensive player, or kind of mix it up a little bit. He is a more polished defensive player, and he's a lot more efficient offensive player. But he is definitely a guy who's shown that he put the work in the offseason. He worked his butt off to show, could he be that focal point? Could he be that pillar guy in DC, or could he be playing, at a scenario where he's bringing his trade value up? But like I said, he's a guy who's made it known that he likes DC. He likes being here, and is it time to formally give him the keys to the franchise? Now, there are factors long term, right? Me personally, I'm a big fan of Jordan Poole's game, and from a personal standpoint, as far as where his head's at, talking to him last year, especially when he's going through his struggles, I saw a guy who knows how to deal with criticism. He's got a very old school approach. He's definitely has an old head mind frame. He's a guy who's shown that he can take the criticism, being that face of the franchise. Now, again, there's a lot of dynamics to really when we say long term, when it comes to Jordan Poole and being here long term, what do we mean? Do we mean the next 3 years, or do we mean 3 years and beyond? And that's the big question here, is that if you look at the contract situation with the Washington Wizards, he's got 3 years left on his contract, and after 3 years, what comes up, guys? Bilal Coulibaly and his rookie extension comes up. So that could be one hiccup that could prevent him being here past 3 years, because you best believe that, the priority is going to be given to these young guys when it comes to re-signing these guys and keeping them here long term. So you could be looking at a scenario where, in the second or third year of the contract where he's at now, they could shop him, and definitely, because his trade values definitely went up. He's shown that he could be a leader. That's another thing we really haven't talked about. Let's get into that. Leadership. Kyle Kuzma has been that leader for this team the last 2-3 years, arguably, when it should have been Bradley Beal, but that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But this year has changed. A lot has changed with Kyle Kuzma. Like I said, we're about to talk about Kyle Kuzma in a minute, because I do believe he's on his way out of DC. But Jordan Poole has picked up being the leader. He is the leader of this locker room. He is the leader of his locker room. And if you combine him with leaders, with veterans like Michael Brogdon, Anthony Gill, Jonas Valanciunas, they're definitely giving him a lot of support, and they're definitely showing him the ropes of being a leader of a locker room. And to me, it's his team. I think we have to officially give him the keys to this franchise. Now the thing is, at least for the next 3 years, because after that, that's where the real choices happen, right? After that, you're looking at, realistically, if Jordan Poole plays at the All-Star level that a lot of us think he can play, then you're looking at the end of his current contract, you're looking at a potential max contract. Not super max, because that's dependent on All-Star and other factors, but you will be looking at a max contract. So the question is, and that's the question for you guys. Get in the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. Are you willing to give him a max contract and then turn around and sign the young guys? And that's the one real biggest hiccup as far as Jordan Poole being here past 3 years, the next 3 years of his current contract, because at that point, if he plays up to snuff and he really shows that he could be that franchise pillar player, you're looking at a max contract. And like I said, if he's playing if he has earned an All-Star berth, other factors, maybe he earns that. Maybe you still want to, because looking at that factor, if you pay him at the max, do you have, per the current CBA, you could re-sign all your young guys. Now that brings up another scenario or another question. Would Ted Leonsis be in favor of paying the luxury tax? And at this point, he has been very hesitant to do so. Dating back to Gilbert Arenas, he wasn't owning the team at the time, but dating back to the John Wall era, he was very reluctant to pay the tax. I think that's a big reason why they didn't go out there and acquire Paul George, even though John Wall was a big catalyst for acquiring Paul George. Ted Leonsis, in his hesitancy to pay the luxury tax and really go into the luxury, is one factor that could keep us from keeping Jordan Poole here long term. Because again, after 3 years, he will be a free agent. So after 3 years, the first guy on the list you want to pay is Bilal Coulibaly. He's the first guy up. And then after that, you got 3 high impact guys from this year's draft that, you got to, do you pay all of them? And after that, you have 2025, Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper. So you guys kind of see where I'm going here. A lot of hard decisions need to come. And, that's what I'm saying, that we have adults in the building when it comes to the front office, but they have a lot of hard decisions. So I think that he is definitely, at least for the next 3 years, you give Jordan Poole the keys. Now, after that, we'll see if he's eligible, or he definitely deserves a max contract to stay in DC, or do they flip him for assets at that point? That is the question. But like I said, he for at least the next 3 years, we should give him the keys because he's shown that one, he can handle the pressure, he can handle the smoke, he can handle the criticism. Two, he's willing to put the work in, and three, he has emerged as a leader of this locker room. And I think that it's time, it's officially time to hand him those keys and give him the keys of the franchise for at least the next 3 years. And then after that, hard decisions definitely remain. So, like I said, you guys get in the comment section, let me know what you think, because I think that you definitely, at least for the next 2 to 3 years, give him the keys and build around him at that point. And then after that, and again, real quick, another scenario is the draft coming up. You add a talent like Ace Bailey or Cooper Flag, then you combine that with Jordan Poole, Bilal Coulibaly, and then these young guys in this year's draft. You've got a really nice, young, dangerous team. Very nice, young, dangerous team. I mean, you add Jordan Poole with Cooper Flag. That's going to be a dynamic duo, in my opinion. Then you add Bilal Coulibaly in his defense. This team is definitely heading in the right direction. So you guys, let me know what you're thinking. Let me know, are you in favor of him being here past 3 years? Would you be willing to give him a max? And if not, because I'm kind of 50-50 on the max. Like I said, if he's earned it, that is one thing. But we have PTSD in DC with max contracts and super max contracts. They've never panned out for us. It didn't work with Juwan Howard. It didn't work with Gilbert Arenas. It didn't work with John Wall. And it definitely didn't work with Bradley Beal because it's still the NBA's worst contract. So, like I said, you guys get in the comment section because, like I said, I think that for at least the next 2 to 3 years, you do give them those keys. But after that, you have to really ask some hard questions and make hard decisions. So, Kyle Kuzma, is it time to trade him? Absolutely. We're going to take a look at some teams where he could be the best fit. And realistically, what is the asking price at this point? But before we get into that, tonight's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of the high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. Come on now, $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk, y'all. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right, everybody, let's get back into this. Kyle Kuzma, the curious case of Kyle Kuzma. Now, let me start by saying this. I have really grown to like Kyle Kuzma. He's become a complete player here in DC. He's provided much needed leadership. I wasn't a big fan of him in LA. I didn't like, some of his frat boy antics with Lonzo Ball and playing around on social media. But he has really grown up here in DC. He's become a man here in DC. He's definitely, again, become a complete player. A 20 points a night scorer who utilizes his size to attack the basket. But this season, he does not look like the same player. Now, inefficiency has been his issue time and time again here in DC. But honestly, I mean, he has not been the same player this season. So let's take a look at some teams where he could definitely be a big, good fit on. But like I said, before we get into these teams, the asking price is really the biggest thing. And I think we're going to get into the asking price first and then look at the 3 or 4 teams where they may have interest in Kyle Kuzma leading up to the trade deadline. The asking price last season was 2 first-round picks. I don't see that being attained at the trade deadline because why? He is struggling. He has struggled this year. He was supposed to be the number 1 option for the Washington Wizards in tandem with Jordan Poole being a nice 1-2 punch in starting 5 because why? Bilal Coulibaly, it was unknown at the time whether he could shoulder more of the offensive load. Same thing, Alex Sarr, very raw offensively. And look at other players like Bub Carrington, Keyshawn George. They're not ready yet to assume a bigger portion of the offensive load. So a lot was placed on Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole because for those very reasons, you have is unsure who that is that third scoring option or the fourth scoring option. But he has struggled. He has struggled a lot. He struggled his shot. Shooting very, low percentage shots. You're rushing shots. Defensively being non-existent at times. Showing bad body language. Not exactly being in the moment. Not really being a leader like it was last year. You see more Jordan Poole emerging as that leader. So is it time? Yes. It's time to move Jordan Poole. Not Jordan Poole. Lord has mercy. Don't get mad at me, y'all. Kyle Kuzma. It is time to move Kyle Kuzma. All right. Because when he signed that new contract last year, the biggest thing was what? Number one, it was team friendly for the Washington Wizards that we can have a number one scorer for a young team, and we can do so on the cheap. We don't have to break the bank long term for a guy who, again, on a contender is probably a third or fourth option, scoring option. But on the young Wizards, he's the number one scoring option. So it was a very team friendly deal. But not only for the Wizards, for other teams. Other teams who want to acquire a guy to be that scoring presence off the second unit or to add a scoring punch to a starting five and do so on the cheap. But that's the thing. He has struggled. And when you kind of look down the lens again, you're looking at a guy who is an inefficient scorer, who defensively is not where you want him to be at that size. And 2 first-round picks seem a little steep. And that's what I'm saying. I think realistically for Kyle Kuzma, he's not untradeable. He's definitely a tradable commodity. He definitely has value. He's definitely a guy who can play basketball at a high level. He's not a scrub. He's a good basketball player. Just the thing is, he is what he is at this point. He's 28 years old. He is what he is. 28, 29 years old. He's very inefficient, and I don't think that's going to change. If you look at most people who are scoring-minded players, there's going to be a lot of shot attempts. So efficiency is always going to be one stat that's going to be a hit against him. But the one things that we liked about him was what? A guy who's very aggressive, attacks the basket. Can he be very reliant on that jump shot? Absolutely. But, with his size, I don't understand why he doesn't utilize his size more and attack the basket, which he's shown to do. He's added a lot of, some muscle. So you definitely see him a lot more active in the paint, attacking the paint, putting his forearm in there, being very aggressive. And I like those things by Kyle Kuzma. I think those are definitely good signs long-term, whether it's here in DC or going forward with another team. But for the longevity of his career, him adding muscle was a good step because now he can definitely go and eat in the paint, definitely be more aggressive in the paint and not be so reliant on that jump shot. But it's time, guys. It's time to move him. All right, so we're going to look at 3 and, to me, 4 teams who could be targets for the Washington Wizards as far as flipping Kyle Kuzma. Number 1, the Memphis Grizzlies. That's one team I brought up in the offseason. Memphis Grizzlies are a team that they're looking to make some progress in the Western Conference because the Western Conference is a monster. So, could they add a player like Kyle Kuzma to add that scoring punch? Yeah, absolutely. I think he could fit well in Memphis. Now, the biggest thing is what could we expect in return? And I did go through the trade machine for a lot of these teams. And, short of acquiring, role guys, I don't see anything on Memphis that really, really excites me as far as a return. Now, you're probably looking at a draft pick or two, and it's probably your best case scenario when you look at the Memphis Grizzlies because I see this team, I see Will Dawkins being very hesitant picking up long-term contracts to role players. Slowly but surely they're knocking off a lot of these contracts off the books. And I get it. Looking at the CBA, you gotta spend a certain amount of your salary cap. But like I'm saying, but then again, you don't want to be handcuffed by role player contracts either. So because I'm pulling up the NBA standings right now because it is starting to get good, especially in the Western Conference. And there are some surprises in the Eastern Conference. But again, the Memphis Grizzlies are one team that definitely keep your eye on the Memphis Grizzlies. Number 2, the San Antonio Spurs. They've got Harrison Barnes. They have Chris Paul. So they have young, or not, they do have a very young core. When you look at Wembanyama, when you look at Devin Vassell, when you look at Keldon Johnson, very young core. But Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, a couple of vets. Kyle Kuzma could, here's one thing we all can admit. He's definitely a high character player. We haven't had any issues with him. No locker room issues, no off the court stuff. So I think he would fit nicely in Popovich in his culture. Certain coaches have cultures, like kind of like Pat Riley in Miami with the Heat culture. You see the same thing with Popovich. Greg Popovich is a long time coach who is probably one of the best coaches to ever coach in the NBA. And I think that Kyle Kuzma would fit well in San Antonio and be another veteran presence in San Antonio for the young core they have over there. Number 3, the Golden State Warriors. Now, looking at the Golden State Warriors, again, who would you realistically expect in return? Because to me, Andrew Wiggins, that's not a contract I'm willing to take on. If you're going to take on Andrew Wiggins, you must as well keep Kyle Kuzma because to me, it's the better contract out of the two. If I'm going to talk to the Golden State Warriors and dangle Kyle Kuzma, I'm going to try to get Jonathan Kuminga and throw him at the 4. And I think he could be the 4 of the future. Now, one hiccup to that is this. Or really 2 things. Number 1, would Golden State be willing to part with Jonathan Kuminga? And number 2, he is owed a contract after the season. He will be a restricted free agent. So are you willing? And last time I checked, he wants a max contract. So could he bring that price down a little bit to be with a young team, a young up-and-coming team like the Wizards? Maybe so. He could change his mind. But like I said, I think the max contract has a lot to do with his place, his role with Golden State, even though I think he is a very important player on the roster. Even though they did decline his option, I think that, If I'm Golden State, you retain a guy like Jonathan Kaminga, but with them declining his option, that could be an indicator that they may be willing to part ways with him. And I think if I'm the Washington Wizards, I'm trying to flip Kyle Kuzma, because he could be a nice young a nice scoring option for the Golden State Warriors, who again they're trying to make a move in the West. They're still competing. A lot of people are saying that the dynasty's over. Yes, Klay Thompson is now Dallas Maverick, but currently, if you look at the Western Conference, the Golden State Warriors are second in the Western Conference at 9-2, behind OKC and right there with Phoenix Suns. And if you look at other teams involved, Denver, I think, is definitely a team's going to be the long term. Memphis, I think, is going to rise up the standings. The Lakers, we'll see. The Lakers going to Laker. The Rockets, very young, intriguing team. But like I said, I think the Warriors are definitely in a position where they can definitely contend in the Western Conference. So could they take on a veteran like Haku, who has championship experience, a guy is a vet in the game who could really fit in well in Golden State? I think it could be a move. I think you definitely have that conversation. I think you definitely make that call to Golden State and try to acquire Jonathan Kaminga. All right, number 4, the Los Angeles Lakers, the former team of Kyle Kuzma. Now, we all know that the Lakers need, maybe they're probably, let's see, maybe a player or two away from, really being solidifying themselves as that threat in the Western Conference. Because again, looking at the standings, the Lakers are in the 6th spot right now at 7-4. And if you look at the teams behind them, you've got some hungry teams behind them, like Memphis and Sacramento, who I think can push them for that 6th spot. Now, the Clippers, we all know the Kawhi is made out of paper, so who knows when he's coming back. And, they're a team that with James Harden's not enough for them to be a perennial playoff team, in my opinion. Nice young pieces in LA, but with Kawhi being down, with Kawhi being literally made out of paper mache, I don't see them a team that's really going to threaten. The Spurs, who knows how much can, the veteran leadership of Chris Paul, how much can Harrison Barnes really help Wembanyama? Are they enough to push them up the standings of the Western Conference? And don't forget Minnesota, man. I mean, Anthony Edwards, man, I think they're definitely better than 11th in the West, so I see them as going up. Same thing with Dallas, they're better than 12th. Same thing with New Orleans, they're better than 14th. And Utah, I think, at 2 and 8, good Lord, they're definitely better than 15th. They have a lot of talent. So to me, if I'm really looking at the worst teams in the Western Conference, it's going to be Portland. It's probably going to be the Spurs. It's going to be the Clippers. And after that is pretty much a who's who fills out the rest of the playoff rosters, or not playoff roster, but the playoff standings. So, like I said, I think all 4 of those teams could be really good targets for moving on from Kyle Kuzma. But here's the thing, guys: it's time. It's time to move them. Enough's enough. The inefficiency, other factors. Enough's enough. He's displaying a lot of bad body language and he's really shown that he may not want to be here any longer. And I think that the losing. Look, by human nature, we all want to win. It's hard to lose. It's just human nature. We don't like to lose. And it's one thing to say you wouldn't be part of a rebuild. It's another thing to be part of a rebuild. You know what I mean? And I think that flipping him to a contender or a team that definitely needs that scoring punch, I think is the best case scenario, because the last factor in the last part of the equation is Bilal Coulibaly. Bilal Coulibaly has emerged as an up-and-coming 3-and-D star, a guy who's ready to take on more responsibility offensively. And I think he has pushed his way past Kyle Kuzma, in my opinion. I think he has shown that he can take on a lot more responsibility offensively. And I think the writing's on the wall. I think it's time to move on from Kyle Kuzma. So you guys get in the comment section. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Are you in favor of trading Kyle Kuzma, and to who? Which team seems like the best fit to you, or do you have another team to add? And what kind of realistic package are you looking at? 2 first-rounders, 1 first-rounder, and a young player? You guys in the comment section and let your boy know what's going on. So, all right, guys, we're going to slide into tomorrow night's game, or a preview for tomorrow night's game at Atlanta against the Atlanta Hawks, because this season we are 2-8, but 2 of those victories are both against the Atlanta Hawks. So could you say it's winnable? Maybe, but you definitely believe they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. Well, so we're going to talk about that. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So you can get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, view live, play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 and bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. All right, everybody, let's get back into this thing. So tomorrow night, the Washington Wizards are looking to get back into the win column at the Atlanta Hawks. So let's get into the preview for tomorrow night's game. All right, so bear with me real quick, guys, because I just had it and it's making me wait a little bit for the the schedule. So give me a second, guys. I just had it up. So, like I said, guys, you got in the comment section because we covered a lot tonight. Jordan Poole, is it time for him to formally take the keys of the franchise? And do you see him being here past 3 years, or do you see a scenario where we move on from him and formally make it Bilal's team in 3 years? I ain't talking about now, I'm talking about 3 years. So, and then Kyle Kuzma, is it time to move on? So, all right, guys, we're looking at the schedule real quick. Tomorrow night's game, 7:30 at Atlanta. And again, we are 2-0 versus the Atlanta Hawks. So we have already beat them twice. They are currently holding a record of 5-7. They are 7th in the East. So take a look at the injury report real quick. For the Washington Wizards, Sadiq Bey is out. He's going to be out for a minute. Per Varun Shankar of the Washington Post, he's going to be out probably till the last quarter of the season. And even then, I think that we sit him for the year. There's really no rush. This team's not going anywhere. Why rushes? So, he's definitely coming back from that ACL injury. So Sadiq Bey is out. But Malcolm Brogdon is day to day. He will not play November 13th versus the Spurs. Oh, I don't know why they put this up there, man, because they already played the Spurs. Lord have mercy. Shaq in the fool moment. So he it's really up in the air. It's 50-50 whether he plays against the Atlanta Hawks. But right now he's ramping up. So we definitely could see Malcolm Brogdon returning to the team within the next 1 to 2 weeks, man, which would be a pleasant surprise because we definitely need another guard, man. Right now, Bob Carrington is playing really good basketball. Jordan Poole is playing all-star basketball, but I think that Malcolm Brogdon could definitely be a welcome addition to the young Wiz kids, man. So looking at for all you bettors per Bet MGM, the Atlanta Hawks are negative 7.5 point favorites. So, but I still think this is a winnable game. We've already beat them twice. Now, the one factor is they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're a team that, look, they lost 2 games to a 2-8 Wizards team. So you best believe on their home court, they're going to be, they want to win this game. They are not trying to give up 3 losses to a lottery Washington Wizards team who isn't in division foe. So, like I said, I definitely think the Atlanta Hawks are going to be really trying to win this game. So looking at other stats, looking at points, leading all Wizards scorers, obviously Jordan Poole with 22.2 points. Trae Young leads all the Hawks with 23.9. Looking at rebounds, Valanciunas leads the Wizards with 7.8, and Jalen Johnson leads the Hawks with 10 rebounds. Wow, that's one thing to look at, guys. Battle of the rebounds that's coming up in a little bit. And assists, Bob Carrington leads the Wizards with 5.1 assists per game, and Trae Young with 11.5 for the Atlanta Hawks. So what are my 3 keys to development? Well, number 1, defense. The Atlanta Hawks are 9th in NBA, scoring an average 116.2 points per game. Defense has to be solid. Every aspect of defense. Transition, we got to get down to daggone court. I mean, on the perimeter, we've got to close out on the shooters. We got to really get more aggressive on the perimeter. Paint, we've got to win the battle of the paint. We've got to win the battle of the paint, which leads into my next key to development. Win the paint. We've got to win the paint defensively. We got to win the paint offensively. And we've got to win the battle of the rebounds. One matchup to look at is the centers versus center. Jonas Valanciunas and Alex Sarr versus Clint Capella and Okonkwo. I think that this is a very winnable matchup between the two. Now, Alex Sarr, yes, he has not had the best last 2 games. He went out against Wembanyama, who dropped a 50-piece nugget, and before that, it was Şengün. So you definitely want to see Alex Sarr definitely step up and get more active in the paint. He's a stretch 5, but he's got to get in the paint. It's 7-1, man. He's got to be more active in the paint. He cannot be relying on that jump shot. And yes, you take that shot because a lot of the shots are wide open. You take that shot when called upon. Head coach Brian Keefe himself said, look, I want him to continue to shoot that shot. It's wide open and he can hit that shot. So, he can definitely stretch the floor. He can definitely hit the 3-point shot and a mid-range shot at times. But here's the thing. You're 7'1". You got to learn to play with your back to the basket. You got to be active in rebounding and paint defense, which rim protecting wise, he has definitely been a really good rim protector. But at times he does look overmatched against most centers in the NBA. So like I said, this could be a game where you could potentially see him play the 4, and they may start Jonas Valanciunas. But then the question is on the second unit, who steps up at center? Could we see Rashawn Holmes? Possibly. So like I said, key to development number 3, push the pace. Catch the defense off balance in transition. Look, attack him. Attack in transition. Get the ball in JP's hands and attack. Attack, and definitely catch people, in transition, man. I think that when this team pushes the pace, when they play fast and catch defenses off balance, this is the better team. We are not a half-court team. We are a team that likes to run. And with JP13 at point guard, let him do his thing. And that's what I'm saying. And it kind of echoes the overall theme of this video, which is give him the keys. Give him the keys to the franchise. Just give him the ball, let him go out there and do his thing. I mean, That's where I'm at right now. I think that he's shown that he can handle that. I think he's shown that he can be that guy. Give him the ball, let him dictate the pace, and let him be that point guard. Let him be the floor general. Um, because him, Bob Carrington, if you look at him from a floor general perspective, he's been looking good. I mean, he's leading the team with 5.1 assists compared to 4.4 assists by Jordan Poole. So, like I said, you got a couple guys who can definitely lead this team at point guard and called upon, even though the nod obviously goes to Jordan Poole because he's a veteran and he's got that experience. But Bob Carrington ain't too shabby either. And then when you look at the potential return of Malcolm Brogdon, we're in a better place at point guard with Malcolm Brogdon coming back. Jordan Poole's been playing at all-star level. Bob Carrington, you see the potential. But Malcolm Brogdon is definitely a guy that you want to see mentor Bob Carrington in the second unit. So we'll see what the lineup is. Like I said, with this lineup with Clint Capella and Okonkwo, Okonkwo can't play the 4. Do they push Jalen Johnson to the 3 and maybe Reese Shea to the 2? We'll see. We'll get a clearer picture once we see the starting lineups for tomorrow night's game. But like I said, I definitely think that I don't know if Alex Sark can. Let's be real. Could Clint Capella be a favorite matchup? I think Clint Capella and Okonkwo could be favorable matchups for Alex Sark. So I wouldn't be surprised or upset if they played him at the 5, because I think he can definitely hang around with Clint Capella. But Clint Capella is a guy he's a veteran. He knows the inside outs of, look, he's crafty for a center. So, like I said, you guys in the comment section, let me know what kind of lineup you guys want for tomorrow night's game. Do you want to see Alex Sark at the 5? Do you think he can roll with Okonkwo or Capella? Or would you rather see JV? And I ain't talking about junior varsity. I'm talking about Jonas Valanciunas, baby. So, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and call it a night because I know it's right before football. So, I'm going to get this video out because tonight is Thursday night football for my beloved Washington Commanders. You guys are probably wondering, why is he wearing that beautiful shade of burgundy? Well, I'm going to tell y'all, tonight is the Philadelphia Eagles and Washington Commanders. So, tonight we're going to see Jaden Daniels versus Jalen Hurts, man. Really going to be must-see TV. 2 really good teams battling for the top of the NFC East. So again, appreciate you guys. Hey, tomorrow night, guys, I put the poll out. You guys spoken. You guys voted. We are a democracy over here, Locked On Wizards, man. So look, you guys voted, and we are going to go live for tomorrow night's game on Saturday night at 7 o'clock. So I will do a live recap of the Atlanta Hawks game tomorrow night on Saturday night because it is the Mike Tyson, Jake. I forgot the man, Jake Paul. Yeah, see, that's how irrelevant it is. I forgot his name because Mike Tyson about to knock this dude out. So it is the fight. I know for all you boxing enthusiasts, it's not the fight that you guys imagine, but like I said, it's definitely must see. Obviously, there's a lot surrounding this fight, and like I said, you guys, I put the poll out, and you guys voted. So, like I said, you guys are part of this thing, just like I am. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna be watching the fight. So we will be doing tomorrow night's recap for the Atlanta Hawks game on Saturday night at 7 o'clock. So definitely tune in for that. So, all right, everybody, definitely appreciate you guys rocking with your boy. Definitely looking for that Commanders victory tonight. All right. So I will see you guys Saturday night. You guys have a blessed Friday night. Hail to the Wizards and peace. See you guys next time.